0.1 layer height.
What?
0.1 layer height. I can't even see the lines on it.
That is seriously insane. So, guys, if you're wondering, this is the mirror. Put it up again. Put it up again. These are the meerkats that Jimmy printed on his TiVo Tarantula at 0.1 layer height and the AMZ 3D bronze colored filament. It's not actual bronze containing. That is seriously impressive. I am blown away.
Yeah, this has been since I had that dual blower set up on it. I've taken it, that little piece right there between his legs. It doesn't look like it's where it's stringed across it. It actually, because this is actually a larger one than what I did the video on. The one I did the video on was original size, and I blew this one up to 175 millimeters tall. And that piece actually is bigger on this one than it was on the other one. So I think it had to do with the scan itself.
I think if I recall correctly, the scan itself actually had a few artifacts like that in it. So I think you're right. That might be the issue.
The other thing I found too is I actually had to drop it into the build plate in Cura because the way it was set up, it actually would start to print like there, and then the next layer it would be printing out here, and the next layer, and it just would slowly grow out where it wasn't touching the build plate. So I have to go back through, resliced it, and dropped it.
Got it. Hey, otherwise, looks amazing.
Oh, cool. Thank you. This printer's growing on me. I'm starting to really like this printer.
Jimmy's becoming a sellout. Oh my gosh. I'm kidding. Honestly, at the end of the day,
You call me a sellout.
No, I'm seriously amazed at what that thing can do. Have you tried the latest Cura with the variable layer height in it?
Yeah, 3.2.
Mm-hmm.
I just downloaded it on this computer because I had to reload Windows. So I actually loaded up 3.2, and there's some insane settings on there.
Yeah, this is a prototype of a tender for a train. There's a little bit of fuzzing on the outside. If anybody wants to be generous and donate a sheet of Ultimaker size build pack to me, my last sheet died, so I've been running the shameful blue tape and glue, and it's just not working for me. I need to work on that. But other than that, and pinching my thumb like an idiot, I actually was messing around with the variable layer height, and it's actually pretty impressive what it can do.
Yeah.
I mean, this surface, all things considered, is very consistent in its layer height, which is nice. Now, the build time was kind of long on this, and that was a little bit of a bummer. But I'm also still figuring out the Cura. But overall, I'm really impressed with the variable layer height, and I think it's something I need to mess around with a little bit more in the future. I think I need to go through and dry some of my filament. Haven't been exactly keeping it the driest, which isn't smart, but yeah, I'm really impressed with it. So I think I'm going to be hopefully in the next week or two doing a video on it because I'm happy with it.
That's cool.
Yeah. Well, do we want to finally dive into tonight's fun topic?
Which one?
Oh, gee, Jimmy's been like I've been torturing Jimmy with Alex Jones gifts on Twitter and private messages, and he's been torturing me with let me Google this for you. So
that's the coolest site ever. I didn't even know that site existed. A couple of my friends up at my night job, I took it. They'd ask me some questions. Oh, hang on, let me send you the link to that. That's horrible. That is probably one of the meanest things you could do to somebody, is to actually send them a link to how to Google something. That's just beyond mean. I had a special word for it that I used earlier.
Yeah, he pretty much sent me a link as a joke, like, does using let me Google this for you make it and then I'm going to insert a different term here, make you a jerk. And the search results were even better that it spat out. I'm just like, you fail miserably, but that was funny.
I like the fact that it came up with Birdman says.
I mean, part of the whole let me Google this for you thing was Tessa, aka Sparky Face 5, and the ever toxic, I really don't even know why I'm still on their Facebook 3D printing group, asked an honest question. She's like, what's the size of an American Coke can? Because she lives in Australia and different countries, and even in San Francisco, if I go to the corner market, I can get a regular size can of Coke. If I go to the Safeway just a couple blocks farther, I can only get like these shrunken, like 9-ounce cans. I mean, it's stupid. But the main point is, you know, different countries may have honestly have different sizes of cans of soft drinks.
Mm-hmm.
And she was asking an honest question, what's the size of an American, you know, soda can? And oh my gosh, thankfully she's a mod on there, so she could just go in there and like shut the chat down. But pretty much a bunch of people made a bunch of snarky comments, and she pretty much jumped in there and shut it down. And within about an hour of that happening, there was a new rule that said, if you use let me Google that for you, you'll be instantly kicked out of the group. And I'm just like, what have we become? I mean, I get it. Let me Google that for you is kind of meant as a snide, snarky, sarcastic way of saying, wow, idiot, you don't know what you're doing. But at the same time, if you're doing it between friends, it can be almost kind of comical in a way. But in
Which
a group
I completely agree between friends. If you do that, that's one thing. It's like, but to take and do that to somebody you don't know, or you know very little, or somebody who's overseas, that just, there's certain things you just don't do, and that's one of them. I mean, it ranks right up there with if somebody makes a comment in another language on one of your videos, you go on there and say, this is America, speak English. And believe it or not, I actually have seen that comment come from creators before to people. And it's like, really? Here, let me Google that for you, how you can decipher what they said.
I mean, I follow a bunch of Japanese modelers on Twitter who do a lot of really cool model train stuff. I can't read Japanese to save my life.
That's the reason why we got Google Translate.
That's the reason why Twitter has the translate function. And honestly, I don't know if they can really understand English or not, you know, like read it and comprehend it, because a couple of them will say, you know, I'm using translator. I'm like, I'm using translator too. And the grammar might be off in whatever the respective language is, but at least you can kind of get the gist of what they're saying. But, you know, the main point is, just because you could Google something doesn't mean that you might not be smart asking somebody just to back up what your measurements or your thoughts were, because for all you know, you printed, you know, got the wrong dimensions for something, didn't know it, and went to do something, or you got the wrong information about something, went to go do it, and then people are like, you're so stupid, you didn't know what you were doing. And you're like, hi, I went online, I tried to do my due diligence with research, I wanted to back it up, but everybody was such a jerk, they just sent me back to Google, and that's why I'm here.
Right. Well, before we jump into your main topic, which, by the way, is on the same order as this, if you ask me, I think you're being kind of a jerk, but let's say hi to the chat.
Hi,
chat. We got the Handy Outdoor Nerd in the house. Thank you for joining. We have Jeff's Nerd Builds. Thank you for joining. We have Nathan Allen in the house. Adam81. Let's see. We got Paul Curtis. How you doing, PJ? Nice to see you in there. And I think that's it for the moment. Okay, man. Go ahead and go for it. Tell us what's on your mind.
Oh, geez. You don't want to know what's on my mind. Too much personal stuff that I can't talk about on stream. No, but I guess the main thing with the whole topic of tonight's stream of what should we pass along kind of ties into previous shows where we've kind of talked about entitlement in the community and things like that. But I guess the main point is, you know, what should you or should you not pass along to other people, especially if you know that they're probably just going to sit there and abuse the knowledge that you've done. And this also ties in a little bit into a post the other week by a certain, I'm not going to name any names here, but a certain conglomerate of people who have been collectively working on firmware for 3D printers that is very common, complaining publicly about certain companies not following their licensing suggestions for their software, and then pretty much just like openly bashing them on Twitter. And I'm going, me and Jimmy are going, that's not a professional way to deal with this. You know, if you really have a problem with the company, you send them a formal complaint. And if that doesn't work, then you take it to the court system if there is any legal grounds to sue over. You don't go to Twitter and just go, you're not following my rules, and act like a bunch of 5-year-old kids on the schoolyard. You know,
I actually did look into that, and they actually do have a legal leg to stand on. But once again, it's a legal leg. It's not something that should be taken to the public court of opinion. It's something that needs to be taken to a real court and say, hey, they're using my software. They're taking it and they're twisting it and doing this and that to it. I didn't give them permission because they're according to the license, they are to contact first and then get permission. So I completely understand that. But with that said, you don't go into the public shaming business. That's because if it does go to court, you know good and well those companies are going to be like, and here's what we've got. In which case one of them would be, and they own a CR10. To me, it was like, okay, I'm done with this thread. Let me just go ahead and click out of that.
I looked at it a little bit, but personally, the whole thing that really irritated me was the fact that they would much rather go on a public shaming spree in the tradition of many, other unnamed, people, and just be like, oh my gosh, they did this and they did wrong to me. Instead of, it's not like you're leaving a review about a company saying, look, I dealt with their customer support. I had these issues. This is what happened. I'd highly recommend against, doing business with the company based off my personal experience. Still up to you. No, this is pretty much just going around bashing people for no reason and pretty much defaming them, over something that, yes, legally you can sue them over, but they could almost sue you for defamation of, their good name. It's very much a tricky 2-lane street. And we all know that if these companies that were being called out in a very unprofessional manner decided to sue them, what would happen? They would then start screaming, oh, you can't do that. And it'd be like, no, it'd just be a mess.
Oh yeah, there'd be countersuits. There'd be all kinds of stuff. But honestly, I see where they're coming from. And the only way of handling that is to go through the proper legal channels in order to do it.
Oh yeah.
Otherwise, if all they do is go on Twitter and cry around about it, that's not going to stop anything. I mean, let's face it. And I'm not saying this to be derogatory toward any company, that way. But let's face it, anything that is produced is instantly reverse engineered in China and created by China and sold back. It doesn't matter what it is. I mean, half the time, I don't know if the Plantronics Bluetooth I'm buying is really a Plantronics Bluetooth because they do such a good job of reverse engineering it and actually putting serial numbers and everything else on them. So I try to stick with going through Amazon and buying Bluetooths that are actually in factory packaging. But there was a time when I used to buy the Motorola ones, and I knew for a fact whenever I'd get it, it did not look right. It worked the same way, but it was not exactly right, but it was a whole lot cheaper.
No, yeah. I mean, and people wonder why I only tend to upload generic models that I make to places like Thingiverse and Pinshape. And that's only because, what's a good example? Oh, like the little exhaust here. Looks really simple, but I put a couple of hours worth of trial and error into this thing to get it to where it's at. It takes time, and I don't want, everybody to, I don't know, when I say I don't want everybody to just feel like they can, run away with whatever I've spent a bunch of time with, especially when it's something that I've created to try and support my channel and my brand with, and it's something I want to stay my own. Yeah, I did release a video on how you could make your own basic version of that, but at the same time, that was more done as a how-to video, and I didn't go into all the details of here's how I created the heat shield And here's how I created the little clapper on the top. You know, there's a reason why I didn't share how to do that stuff, is because I want to keep that knowledge to myself. But if you want to make the generic shape of it, I'm happy to teach you. But it's the little stuff that, you know, is definitely something. And who was it? I thought somebody said something in chat. Oh, Nathan Allen said that we value our own work, and that is darn right. Some of us just do not feel comfortable sharing it, and that's kind of what ties into the topic of what should we or should we not pass along. You know, I'm fine sharing the basics of what I know, but unless somebody's going to directly show a genuine interest in what they're in the finished products, or they really need specific help, I'm not just going to run around and share that willy-nilly, because it's taken me years and years and years and tons of classes and tons of trial and error to get where I'm at now. And I'm not precluding the fact that I wouldn't help people. I'm just saying that I want other people to have a chance at doing things, but I also don't want them to just feel like they can march in here and, you know, just run away with all my knowledge for nothing. You know, that's kind of my thing, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, you're the type that says, "Let me Google that for you."
I'm the type that says, "I'll be happy to teach you the basics of how to do something, but at the same time, I'm not going to teach you everything that I know right out of the box, because I don't know if A, you're going to have absolutely no interest in it, B, you're going to go, modeling just isn't for me, and that's totally fine, or C, you're going to take all my knowledge and skills, run on off, and totally try and put me out of business when I tried to help you out," you know, which is a really jerk move unless I was like 80 years old and getting out of the industry. And then I'd be like, okay, I want to pass my knowledge along, but you know, that sort of thing.
So Chris from Fractal Printing is saying, I write control system software for a living. My code is licensed, not sold. If someone steals my code, they're taking bread off my table. They are taking clothes off my children's backs. And that's exactly right. And that kind of goes back to the deal with that company that we're talking about, that there's a certain way they need to handle their software. And if you go open source, you open yourself up to what's happening, to where other companies will take and tweak your software, do stuff to it that way. And it's not what you want to happen, but it's what happens. The same way when it comes to the Thingiverse model. I could take my very first model I uploaded was that Z-Wobble bracket, right? So I upload that bracket. Within an hour, somebody took that bracket, said they put it into another program to smooth it, which they didn't. It was exactly the same deal, but they re-uploaded it on theirs. And it's just one of those things that people just do because they want to have the biggest and best thing. And that's what a lot of the 3D printer manufacturers are doing, is they want something a little bit different, but yet they don't want to write the code from scratch. They want to take and just alter something. And so it's easy to get something off of open source, take and alter the code, and then turn around and put it as a firmware on their deal. Which then whenever you start dealing with Cura and the other open source software, trying to control that the software that's on your board, it doesn't talk quite right. You know, there's certain settings you can't do because that board won't let you do it.
So Chris over at Practical Printing just made a really good point. I'm going to read it off verbatim. He goes, "My opinion is that people that are visible in the community, it's our responsibility to educate people and tell them about manufacturers that are not acting ethically and are not following GPL, which is one of the software licensings." And he goes, "Sure, not everyone will hear us, but it's still our jobs to make people aware of this." And that I agree with. Now, the one thing I will say is the only problem with that is, in the case of one company, they agreed to release their source code, and they did that for a while, and then they reverted back. So the problem is the information that was said at the time of the review may have been true, and things change, and you can obviously update descriptions or put in an annotation or something. But still, it can be a little bit tricky. But I do agree, though, that people should, I mean, it's like if people are so worried about the ethics behind the food they eat with the proper care of the animals, or this is ethically, harvested, fair trade, we're supporting a small community somewhere in Ecuador that's making this coffee. And, if people can get that, worked up over their day-to-day products, why can't we do the same or trying to buy electronic items with the least amount of conflict minerals in them, all that stuff? Why aren't we acting the same way with 3D printing companies and going, look, this company's not, doing the best business ethics. I really don't think that we as a community should be supporting their efforts, and it's ultimately a personal decision, but I do think that is a fair point.
But with that said, from a reviewing standpoint, people, as far as those who want to see a review, they want to see a review. They want to know whether or not a printer is worth paying for. They want to know what's the print quality, what's the problems with it, what's the pluses with it. When it comes to a reviewer having to be narrowed down to having to study whether something is properly licensed the correct way, if they got the correct permissions from the original software creator and all that, that's putting quite a bit of a burden on somebody who's just trying to check out whether or not something works or if it doesn't.
True. Well, Chris just made a good point. He goes, quote, as of the time of this review, I was not able to verify that company X is in compliance. As a user, you're responsible to look into this because it could limit community's ability to support you. So there's a good way to put it. But
in my estimation, it's up to the software company to say, hey, just a heads up, this is the list of companies who we have given permission to. Here's the list of companies that we have not given permission to. And they've done this, this, and this to our software.
Mr. Carroll Science just jumped in with a good question. He goes, are we talking about not supporting a company or campaigning against a company? Do we lobby against something or simply not recommend? And personally, I feel like we should not recommend a company that's not following the rules. But at the same time, it's hard because anytime that you speak out against a company, all of a sudden you're going to have 50,000 warring factions coming in going, oh, but I like this company, or, oh, I don't think it's that bad. But at the end of the day, I kind of feel like campaigning against a company can definitely backfire. I think we should just be like, look, we don't feel like this company is following the rules. Therefore, we're personally not going to support them and what they're doing. What you decide to do is your own thing. Makes it very much just kind of like if I'm reviewing a product and they go, yeah, it's nice, but I really don't think what they're doing is the most appropriate, or the product just did not work. That's one thing, but it's definitely a very tricky line because people will get so offended if they even think you're speaking out bad against whatever product it is. So, it's hard.
But the thing is, what some of us were tagged in that post about had nothing to do with the companies. It was going after the reviewers for supporting those companies. And what they don't understand is it's not the reviewers that are supporting the companies. It's the reviewers just trying to review the product.
Yeah.
It's not on the reviewers to know whether something is properly licensed or not. It's up to a company like that. If they feel that their software has been jeopardized, it's up to them to say, here's the list. Contact the reviewers and say, by the way, the printer that you just reviewed is not compliant. Could you please make a notation in your video? Something like that. But yeah, instead, it was directed as kind of to me, it was kind of get the tar and feathers and let's go after people. And I really liked how Tom responded to him. It's like, what do you want us to do?
I hate to use the term, but it literally turned into a Twitter lynch mob against the company until Tom from Tom's 3D P and a couple of other people. I mean, I didn't watch the whole thread very much. I got started in it and I just muted it. I'm like, I'm done with this. I don't need 50,000 notifications from people infighting with each other. But the main point was, and it was a very good one, that do you expect us with our limited time that we're spending trying to review a machine, crank a video out, and all that stuff to also sit there for 3 hours and go, is this company compliant or not? Do I really know? And sometimes you honestly just do not know, which is why I totally agree. It would be great if there was a list of companies that are in compliance, finding out about, and not. So it's a little bit like those, terrible analogy again, but it's a little bit like those, if any of you guys are into like eating seafood, there's those lists of like the red, green, and yellow. For red, don't even think about it. Yellow, yeah, it's not the most sustainably harvested, and green, it's probably okay to eat. So you make sure you're supporting something that's, not going to kill the ocean. But the main point is it's a very quick and easy way to go, this company's good, that company's iffy, and that company's bad. And you can still, make your own decisions from there, but it makes it easy for everybody, and it doesn't put all the burden on the reviewer to go, are they good or not? And go from there,
Mr. Carroll Sands says, I think the best thing is just to say, for me, I don't recommend. If you want to buy one, here are the upgrades necessary, in my opinion, to keep you safe and satisfied, whatever. Then he says, for example, Adventures in upgrading the TiVo Tarantula. Thank you so much. How much are we for that? Not kidding.
Just find out his address and send him like a little swag pack of stickers.
Yeah. Chris is saying, yes, but as a reviewer, shouldn't the companies and the community's ability to support the product be part of the review? Yes, but as a reviewer, how do we know whether a company got permission to tweak the software or not? Unless the software company lets us know this company is using the wrong software or whatever.
No, yeah, the whole thing was just, it was a mess. And that's where I leave that at is, except for when Tom jumped in there, pretty much the whole thing was just like a whole bunch of kids clobbering each other over the head, claiming that they were right. And at the end of the day, it's just like, come on, people, we can do better than that. Yes, the companies were not being compliant, but our attitude and the way that we were acting was also not the most professional. And that really irritated me in a way, because it's like, come on, people, we're adults here. Let's act the part.
Yeah. Chris is saying all they have to do is post the source files to comply, and that is it. And it's that simple. See, and honestly, when it comes to that, I honestly don't know. When it comes to software, I'll be honest with you, I very seldom do software updates on my printers. I'll normally run it with the factory firmware. So as far as knowing what I'm looking at, if I'm looking at a software revision or something, I have no idea what I'm looking at. But there are others out there that I'm sure they first thing they do is they get in there and they're like, okay, this has been tweaked, blah, blah, blah. But I, for one, and I'm sure that there's many, many, many other reviewers out there that aren't that proficient when it comes to firmware.
No, yeah. I'll be perfectly honest. When I got my Ultimaker, I didn't run any upgrades on it. Updates on it until Kira prompted me when I would update the Kira software to be like, hey, there's a new update out. Do you want to update? And I'm like, sure, yeah, it's got some good features. But other than that, most people, unless there's like a massive firmware update, just won't update a machine because, quite honestly, most of the updates are trivial or they're for bug fixes that don't even apply to their machine.
Right.
And sometimes actually updating the machine can be almost more problematic than not because, something you thought you had fixed wasn't. And it's just like, I just prefer not to usually just because I don't want to accidentally knock the machine out or knock any settings out because I updated it and then go, oopsie, sort of like that.
Chris saying that the thread actually got turned around and became not against the companies and became a back and forth between targeting individuals. I reserve the comments on that thread for offline discussion. He's correct. And that's where I'm talking about is the fact that it became more of a lynch mob deal than it became, let's talk about the companies. It became going after the reviewers and going after this person and that person because they didn't provide the correct information and so on. And that's that's what kind of got me about it. It's like, really?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest. I said this privately with Jimmy, and I thought about saying it on stream, but I think I will say it out loud to give you guys an idea of just how disgusted I was with the attitude of people recently in the community. I'll be perfectly honest. I came very close to making the decision to not only leave the Facebook 3D printing group, but also not really feature 3D printing very much more on my channel. You know, not to say that I wouldn't do projects with the Moai or projects with the Ultimaker, but I mean, I was getting to the point where I was getting so fed up with people and their attitude in the 3D printing community that I'm like, okay, I've got other projects I can do. I can do CNC machining stuff, drone stuff, and train stuff, you know, welding projects, brazing projects, switch over to more of like a DIY channel, watch me hack together wood and stuff. You know, I was thinking about doing that, and you know, it's kind of like, well, if the community has become this toxic, then they don't deserve my time and effort and money being spent, you know, doing projects that cater to what they want. I'm like, you guys just want to act like that, then bye, Felicia. I'm just going to not deal with you. And I'll be perfectly honest. I mean, I'm still on very thin ice with certain people and their attitudes in the community. So I'm not saying that I'm just going to like throw the baby out with the bathwater, but I'm getting more fed up with the way people are acting. And yeah, not everybody is toxic, TK. You're totally right. But it's just sad the way that the groups have gone. It's like, do I really want to be associated with people that act that toxic, that act that childish over ultimately small things? You know, it's frustrating. And I'm just putting that out there to be perfectly honest. I mean, I'm not saying that you guys who aren't in the chat are not awesome people. I'm not saying I have not met awesome people over at the Maker Faire. It's just the sad thing is the majority of the community, at least in online interaction, seems to be more interested in pointing the finger at people and beating each other down than being like, look, you know, I understand you might like this and I might like this, but let's kind of come together and put our differences aside for a little bit and just act like adults. You know, that's the main point I guess I'm trying to make.
I just laugh at it.
I know. I mean, I guess for me, it's more or less, do I really want to be associated with the group that is that toxic? And then people go, yeah, I just got this 3D printing group thing that you're on. And man, they're toxic people. And I'm like, yeah, you know, it's like, I don't know. I'm not saying that the mods in there don't do stuff, but I really feel like they need more people in there kicking people out, to be perfectly honest, because it has just gotten overwhelming. You know,
Mr. Carol Science said that that reality is the risk you take being on YouTube. Trolls are an unfortunate part of it, and that's true. But I have to say though, on Facebook, especially on the Facebook groups, I see a lot more of them than I do on the YouTube videos. Well, except for the Hairy Lion video, that one takes the cake.
I mean, I'm part of other Facebook groups, like a 3D printing from all trains one, a big one for Owen 30 trains. And let's just say that if you act out of line in those groups, you're out. They will either give you a warning if it's nothing too severe, but if it's pretty severe, you're kicked out permanently. So there's definitely, it's not to say that Facebook groups can't be really well done, but the problem is they just get so, you know, people just get so uppity, and it's sad. And yeah, it is totally true that trolls are more active than the good guys. It is totally true that it is the risk that you run. But at the same time, it is sad though when it just feels like the community is only known for being full of toxic, cranky people, if you know what I mean.
Mr. Carol Science still wants that Harry Calvin STL.
Same here. Still need to find a way to scan my head in, and then we can get TK to go draw some like crazy big afro in for my head. Oh, it'd be awesome.
He can do it too. Look at that. Look at that. Look what he did to that. Okay, this was before, and this was after. Look how he textured it. Look at that. Look at that chiseled chin of Daniel Norrie. Look at that. Look at that. Look at that. Respect it.
Okay, so totally random, but a couple of weeks ago, I actually went to Popeyes and I got some food, and I was sitting in the car, and I was so debating taking to be the Hodge twins and send it to you, and then I'm like, I'm starving, I'm just gonna eat it anyways. just to mess with you, but I didn't. But that, whatever.
Everybody's on here like, well, who in the world is the Hodge twins? Look them up. They're funny.
He's like absolutely addicted to them. I will admit, you definitely have to be into that kind of comedy to understand it. It's a little bit like The Office. If you don't get that kind of comedy, you just don't understand it. But it is pretty funny. I do have to admit.
I like the way they used to do it when the one brother would come in and get off of me. Of course, he said something else. He didn't just say get off me. He said, get the off me.
So Rover's saying something about a neon transformer. Well, I went over to the park near where I live the other day to film, and I don't know if this photo got on Twitter or not, but that's me with the wind blowing at like 20 or 30 miles an hour in my hair. And if you guys want any ideas of what I look like if I had a neon transformer hooked up, that's about as close as you're going to get.
I think you got your mad scientist look you want. Now it's time to get your hair cut.
Shut up.
Well, make me find those tremors.
Oh gosh. Yeah, and then I seriously need to find that clip of you playing the French stylist. That was just great.
So are you still going to go down there and get your hair cut by your stylist?
Definitely doing that, because I'll be honest, it's getting to the point where it's becoming, don't get me wrong, I like it longer, but in the field of work that I do, it is definitely an issue.
Well, yeah, you're supposed to be teaching safety and all that, and yet here you are with really long hair. We're running CNC mills and everything else, which is like the hugest no-no there is.
Hey, everybody doesn't see how close my head gets to my exposed pulley, so they don't care.
What are you going to do next? Start running around with cuffs on your sleeves and on your pants, and then go and do some welding on the camera?
And then splash
all this safety.
Splash a little denatured alcohol on there for good measure, maybe a little acetone or something,
Thanks, Chris, for joining. Have a good one.
Have a good one, Chris. Go out there and smash out some awesome code. So, Ashley,
that's cool.
Long hair can be such a pain. Yeah, you're telling me. I'm definitely learning. But Nathan's saying a ponytail is your friend, and yeah, either I got to dig out my Nomex hood or I'm going to start having to do the awesome ponytail thing over at welding, because if I'm operating a saw or something, gotta be a little safe, even if it's off camera.
TK said wear a tie. Also, don't forget the tie with an angle grinder. Mr. Carroll Science, open source hair. Free the hair.
Oh gosh, why do I have visions of like sweeping up all the hair when I'm done, putting it in the baggie and being like, auction time for Calvin's hair.
Oh, how long does your hair have to be to donate it to that locks for something? What was that?
Even if I shaved my head completely, my hair is still not long enough.
Oh, okay.
So even if I was to go that crazy, which I'm not going to do, it is still not long enough, which, oh well.
I can see you with an army haircut.
No.
Locks of Love, that's the name of it. I bet you're pretty close to it.
Yeah, close. Hey, what's up, Jeff?
Hey, Jeff.
Yeah, Ashley's saying they need like 10 inches of hair. I've got a pair of calipers here so we can measure out 10 inches on. Jimmy's gonna hate me after this stream. This is payback for car ride to and from Vegas, dude.
Da, da, da. Yeah, yours not that long.
So here's 10 inches. Now I'm going to embarrass myself on,
Whoa. What are you trying to measure there?
My you
It's a
suck.
family show. Remember that?
I'm kneeling down so people can see that I'm accurately measuring my hair, genius. Okay, so this is great. So there's 10 inches, and
Oh, you got it.
shut up.
Exactly 10 inches.
Yeah, that's if I left like no hair on my head.
Yeah, you're just gonna have to go with like a 1 or a 2 comb.
Nope, not gonna happen.
But what about the children? Hashtag Dirty Jimmy.
What have I done? Now everybody's saying, oh, you guys are horrible. Don't make me walk off set again like I always do every episode. Oh, you guys suck. And I storm off set.
Paul says, Calvin, what's your price? I'll make it happen. We'll get the fun going.
I thought you guys were complaining that that you guys donated a bunch of money like when I first got Super Chat. I was like, oh, and you gotta cut your hair. And I'm like, I kept telling you guys I was gonna do it when I went down south on spring break. But
you've got to get it done though. You've got to get it done.
I'm getting my hair cut. I said that's happening.
We're going to do a little bit over here and a little bit around here. We're going to make it shorter and then we're going to make it longer and then we're going to do all this because you're going to go to a stylist, you know. It's got to be a stylist. You can't go to just a normal haircut place. It must be a stylist.
Sorry, Ashley. It's going to need to be more than $1, but I appreciate the offer, though.
Yeah, because he's going to a stylist. He cannot take and $1 will not touch what was about to happen at the stylist. Jimmy, where's the shaver? I agree.
I got a pocket knife in my drawer. Thing's duller than a butter knife.
TK said he just tweeted the last model he did.
Nathan says that his hair is like 24 inches long, which is really cool.
Man.
I want hair like
you
that.
You can make a double donation to Locks of Love.
At that rate, he could just like braid a rope or something. No, Mr. Carroll Science, that idea. Whoever did that, it would not be pretty.
I really, really thought about taking him with me to Vegas and trying it. I really thought about it. And I thought, if I do, Calvin will never talk to me again. It's not worth losing the friendship. I mean, he meant a pull of his own hair.
I will be honest. Part of me thought that Jimmy was going to do something like that, but then I'm like, no, I don't think he's actually going to do that. I was just waiting for Heather to come on and be like, I'm only going on camera to shave your hair, Calvin. I'd be like, out of here.
Now, what would you have done if Heather would have said, okay, I'm going to come on camera for the first time ever if I get to cut your hair?
I would have said, how much are you cutting off? I've learned double check so you don't get stuck with a situation you might not like.
DK says it's a print I might get into. That's cool. I'll definitely check it. Did you check it out yet?
Not yet. Doing it now. Because I don't want to seem like I'm, you know, staring at my phone the whole time like a disrespectful person and, you know, disrespectful millennial.
That's pretty.
Yeah, I'm trying to find it. Give me time. My internet's being slow. I'm just going to search for it. Yeah, right here. Yeah, just a second ago. Come on, Twitter. I want to see TK. You. Yeah, there we go. Oh, that's cool.
You found it?
Yeah. That would seriously make a really cool Moai print just because of the detail that you could pull off with something like that. But it'd
Do
also
it.
take a while.
Do it.
I might. I still have to do the Handy Outdoor Nerds print. I'm going to do that one on camera, actually, because it's really cool.
So Paul says his beard is at donation worthy length. Oh, wow.
Wait, you can donate beards?
Well, it's hair. As long as it's 10 inches, right?
I guess. What do I know? I'm just the guy with hair on his head that everybody doesn't like.
I'm on a live stream. I can't go there on a live stream. After the stream, I'll go there.
Oh, we are so bad. Everybody's getting like finally a glimpse into what goes on off camera. Oh man, we are tired. Without going into personal life details, let's just say for the past week or so, I've been getting almost no sleep. So if I'm a little bit out of it tonight, guys, that's why, which is not fun.
I'll tell you what, yesterday morning I woke up with a sore throat. Went all day, felt perfectly fine, and then went in for my interview. Everything was fine during the interview. Then about 5 o'clock, I started like getting the really bad aches and pains in my arms, just like I was getting the flu. I'm like, oh man, what in the world's going on now? About 6, it was probably about 5:30. All of a sudden, I started just chilling really bad. This is while I was up at work. So I went out to the van at 6 o'clock, took a break, fired up the heater as high as I could get it, got warmed up real good, went back inside. And about 6:15, by 7:30, I could just feel my face just was like, I quit chilling. It just got just hot. And one of my coworkers walked by and she's like, you look bad. And she comes up there and she put her hand on my forehead. She's like, go home. She says, you've got a pretty high fever. I don't know what it was, but all I know is I talked to the manager who's on duty and she agreed. She said, go home. So I came home, which by then I was getting a little bit kind of dizzy a little bit, but I was perfectly fine for driving. Got home and just took ibuprofen, Sudafed, and went to bed. And I was probably about 4 or 5 in the morning. The fever finally broke. But man, I was for a good part of the day, I was sick. And then today I felt a whole lot better.
Maybe it was like a short bug you caught or some residual crap that was still in your body that kicked in again.
Yeah, something. I don't know what it was, but man, it just hit like a ton of bricks. But by the time 10:30 came, there was no way I could come over here because if I would have been freezing to death.
I'll be honest, last night I was pretty tired, and despite my best efforts to try and get to bed in a reasonable hour, got a little sidetracked redesigning the roof for my little rail speeder project. So I added the roof rack, added the little drip shields, added a little step, and I'm like, oh, okay, it's like 11 o'clock. Maybe I should try and go to bed. 11:30, I finally get to bed, and I'm like, I give up.
Dude, you better get to bed. So how much sleep did you get last night?
Not enough.
Man.
Yeah. So, oh well. A lot of stuff going on, that's why. Nothing related to the channel, though. Don't worry.
Yeah, just stress.
Just stress. Way too much stress. My life is like stress with stress on top. It's much fine. I don't even, at this point, honestly know what a day without stress feels like. It's pretty sad.
And believe it or not, whenever you are out from under the stress, you're going to be stressed because you're not under stress.
How did you know? That is exactly the way it is. It is like,
hello, I know.
He's been there.
Man, oh man. Well, you want to go ahead and call it, my friend?
I say we go ahead and call it. Sorry if the stream was kind of short and random, guys, but with Jimmy sick, me sleep deprived, and all that stuff. You know,
Yeah, it's Valentine's Day and it's 11:13 at night. As was it Bat Dad says, relations.
so
Calvin's like TMI.
So Jeff was asking, can I show some more prints from the Moai? I don't really have very many with me on my person right now, but if you go check the @NakedWithCal Twitter, I've been like spamming the crap out of that with Moai print pics. And next week, if you guys want to see some Moai prints, I will hopefully have more done. And if Jimmy gives me the A-OK, I'll gladly show them to you guys. Or I'm hopefully going to work on putting together a photo album of prints that have been both, you know, in process and done and things like that, so you guys can get an idea. But don't worry, the little rail speeder project that I've been working on, this is the version 1 cab that I did in pieces, the top and the bottom. There's 2 pieces to double check. I will be doing a video on that hopefully in a couple of weeks. I'm just waiting on the right resin to come in. Long story short, I accidentally got sent the wrong color. So I sent that back and I'm waiting on the right resin to get shipped out. Have not heard anything about that, but we'll see.
Cool. Well, guys, thank you very much for joining. You guys have a great night and catch us next week over on my channel. And we'll do it Tuesday night at 10:30.
Granted, none of us get sick in the meantime.
Yeah, if he gets sick, then we're going to be in trouble. Hopefully, I won't get sick anymore.
My bed's on the other side of the laptop screen, so if I had to, I could just drag the laptop over there and stream from bed.
Unfortunately, my voice isn't to the point where I could do the Alex Jones imitation this week.
Oh gosh, that was great. I'm sorry.
those are some funny gifts you sent, man.
Oh yeah.
Okay, guys, thank you for joining. Have a good one.
Later.